Hi, I'm Tom from Tom Cycle Recycling, and after a long hiatus from making YouTube videos, I'm back. This time shooting my own videos with the help of my lovely wife Karen. And I'm going to start off by working on this 1983 CB1100F Super Sport. It's getting completely torn apart, and we're going to resto mod it. But before we can even start doing that work, it's got to be completely disassembled, and the last main part that has to come out now is the engine. So I'm going to show how you can pull the engine with a minimal number of tools. And you don't have to be an expert or a mechanic. There's just a little care involved. And once you see how it's done, you'll realize it's not hard at all. So we'll get at it after I cover what tools are involved, and you'll see it isn't bad at all. Since I already did most of the prep work, there's not much left to do before I pull the engine, and as a result I don't need a lot of tools. So as you can see, I've got some box wrenches, an adjustable wrench, some metric sockets, a hammer. This is a motorcycle jack that you can buy in quite a few hardware stores, tool stores. In this case, it's fitted with a special adapter plate that's designed for this particular dual overhead cam engine. These two pins here line up with these two threaded holes in the bottom of the oil pan. So when you get under the engine and you get everything lined up, you've got two really good support points, plus a special block of wood that fits on this pin and supports the oil filter housing. And as you can see from the picture showing the engine on the stand, it works out very nicely. All right, so the first thing I did was to drain the oil from the crankcase, and that includes cracking open the oil filter housing so the oil would drain out of there. Then I removed the oil cooler to get that out of the way, disconnected the spark plug wires, then removed the carburetors, the airbox, battery box, and the starter. The battery box and the airbox can stay in place, but you definitely want to get the carburetors out of the way. It's pretty much impossible to get the engine out with those on. I'd like to go around the engine and I'll show you the various bolts that have to be removed so that you can get it out. We'll start by looking at these dog bones. There's one of these on each side. One here too. Then we've got to remove this top bolt, this bottom bolt. This is one side of another bottom bolt. Here's the other side of it. These two bolts have to come out, as well as the long one that goes all the way through the engine case. And we also have to remove this frame member, which goes along here. There's one bolt at the top, right there, and then two more down here. All right, so I've got the engine jack and the special adapter plate lined up underneath the engine. The two back pins are slipped into a couple of holes that are in the oil pan. And then there's a wooden block up front here that's right underneath the oil filter housing. So I can start removing everything. I moved this up just enough to take the weight off the frame. So now I can start removing various components. Now if you don't have a motorcycle, a spare, sitting around to use as a guide for putting this all back together, I highly recommend that you take lots of pictures, because there's a whole bunch of bolts and washers, and if you forget where something goes, it's going to be kind of tough to figure it out. So that's dog bone on that side. Get the one on this side. This one's a little bit tougher to get out. It's wedged in there pretty tight. We'll come back to that in a minute. I've got to use a wooden dowel to tap that out. Now the frame, the subframe, or whatever you want to call it here, can come off. That is, as soon as I take out this bottom engine bolt. All right, so it wouldn't hurt to pull the bolt a little farther out from the other side. And looks like I need to get my dowel. All right, so instead of using a dowel, I'm going to use this bolt and just gently tap. Because you don't want to damage the end of that bolt or the threads. Still a little bit there. The skinnier bolts will make it a little easier. Okay. That should be far enough. Famous last words. There's the frame member. All right. Go around to the other side to that dog bone. Tap the bolt out. Got that out of the way. All right. Might as well get this top bolt out. There's a couple of spaces here, so you want to make note of how they go. If you're careful when you pull this out, you can just slide everything back together so you can remember how it goes later. So there's that little assembly. This also has to come off, otherwise it'll be in the way. It's a little piece of angle. I always try to keep parts together as I go. Very important. Take this ground wire off, otherwise the engine will not want to come out. Alternator wires out of the way. I think I have one more bolt. Two more bolts. Two bottom long bolts. Here's one. Holds the foot peg assembly. Here's the other one. And if you look closely, you'll see some nuts falling out as I do this work. That's from squirrels having a good time. All right, you can see the engine's loose now. So now I can start jacking up and go as high as you possibly can. Then you got to tilt it forward slightly. Just enough so that it clears the frame. But not too high. So there goes another nut. There you have it. Out of the frame. not too bad. Now would be a good time to lower it, keep it a little more steady. Just let it down as far as it'll go. Now I can roll it into the shop, put it on the stand, and start preparing for further disassembly. All right, so that's the end of this particular video. It's the first time I'm doing it all by myself. My son-in-law, Jordan, who shot all the other videos, is busy raising a young family right now, so he's not able to work on these with me at the moment. So hopefully the quality is reasonable compared to the ones that he did for me, because they were about as good as they can be. And since we're approaching 1 million hits on my YouTube videos, I thought it was time to get going on a new one. And I appreciate all the support, all the great things everybody's had to say. I really appreciate that a lot. Anyway, the end result, after I'm finished with the motor and the rest of the bike, is what you see behind me, which is CB1100F Resto Mod with modern suspension and lots of other goodies. So feast your eyes and see you next time.